And there are 3 books about the 29th, Sketch of the 29th Hour of Brides. There's another book. We have 2 of them in our agency. This is one. Miss Carol wanted me to bring something from the agency so people would be able to at least see one of the books that's there. This is in our stacks, and it is titled Out the Briars. Many people probably can get it on eBay maybe, or some other way you probably can find it, but I know a lot of them are actually out of print. Now, when I first started in the library in 1988, been there now going on 20 years, but this was before the movie Glory came out. This is a brave black regiment, the 54th Mass. And just as the young man was asking and the school teacher was saying, this information has been in our library since before I started there. Our building was built in 1908. I came in 88. This book has been there. The Glory movie came out in the 90s. But the information, as I always say to many of our young people and researchers, the information is there. The information is there. What we need are actually researchers to go in and pull the information out. Just as Mr. Gomez was just sharing about the December the 29th, we have all of the 29th papers, the enlistment papers. So I went through the records and still going through records now because new material is being unfolded. As you've heard me say about the marriage to Miss Augusta Madison, that was something new that I didn't know until 2 weeks ago, that we had William Webb's marriage certificate in our agency. And I always thought the young lady who he married was very young. When I first started doing the research, the records were saying she was 11 years old, and I would go to schools and the kids would say, "Oh," and I would say, "Oh," and it is true, but she actually was 14 years old when she got married, and the family married into Ellington. But one of the interesting things about that was even the 1860 census does say he was married, but I wasn't able to find any proof of his marriage. But in the probate records, the marriage vital records for New Haven, before these guys went into war, there were a number of soldiers, about 20 soldiers, who decided on March 12th that they were going to get married. Now, when you start looking for Civil War soldiers, just like men do today when they get ready to go into the war, they may decide to marry their sweetheart before they go into the service, whatever the reason, for the benefits, whatever their reason. But it was about 20 guys from the 29th that decided that they wanted to get married. So when I came across that information that was hidden to me, and I would have never searched in New Haven for William Webb's marriage. But when I found that piece of the puzzle, that lets me know that there is a lot more information that's out there that's still to be uncovered and unfolded. Private Webb, when he was discharged with an eye injury, and the medical record says his eye injury occurred from something during one of the battles and began to deteriorate the retina. So he was discharged and went back to Front Street. Everyone knows where Front Street is now in Hartford. You know where Adrian's Landing is in Hartford? That whole area is what Front Street was at that particular time. But Private Webb later died in 1868. He was a laborer for a couple of years, then he got sick and he died in 1868. We have his will in our library. He was left at the house in Ellington and $25. His parents later moved into Massachusetts and married a prominent Massachusetts family. And now one of my colleagues, Mel Smith, was actually doing some work on the family and tracking the family in Massachusetts. But it still extends into that particular area, but no descendants of Private Webb is here as said that I know of now that's still in Connecticut. He didn't have any children, so there's no one from his family unless we track this family down in Massachusetts and pinpoint someone local that we can bring this information to, that we're talking about one of their ancestors. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Wool trousers. As you can see, the uniform is an all-wool uniform. Even the shirt is a wool blend shirt. So it does cause me to have those moments at times. But the uniform, funny thing about it, came in 2 sizes. It either fit or it didn't. So what the soldiers had to do was actually swap the uniform to try to find a size that was more suitable for them. But it is all wool, so I normally lose maybe a pound just going back and forth, drenching with sweat. The shoes. Now, our museum director actually made these shoes that I'm wearing. It took about 36 hours to make the shoe. It is a leather shoe. When I first started presenting, the shoe had no, but the more I present, the more I walk in them, I start to take shape of my own foot. But then, as you see underneath, is a horseshoe. As you can hear that there. Used, as we know with our shoes, that over time the shoe will begin to wear down. And so the horseshoe is one of those preserves to keep the shoe, as well as for guys digging into the trenches also. I tried a pair of Confederate shoes on one day, and their shoes were more so like boots. It had a plate in the middle, very uncomfortable. I thought these were bad, so I don't know how the Confederate guys were able to really walk in their shoes. It was very uncomfortable. So I went back to my original shoes here. Now, as one of the brothers from the 29th was saying, Mr. Merrill was saying, you have the haversack. And I'll get into the canteen to where we're talking about the disease. But you have the haversack. For us in library work and museums, the haversack is one of those important tools. Okay, because the soldier's personal items are inside his haversack. You will find haversacks in families, in the attics, in the basements, in store chests, because families were passing these down from generation. But a soldier would have all of his personal items inside his haversack. Anything from a pendant, a letter, anything that was dear to him, he would place inside the haversack. If he was killed in a battle, one of the things that you would hope for was someone would return his haversack home, meaning that your son, your father, brother, uncle didn't survive the war, and this was a way of proof of telling that this is personal belongings. Everyone knows what this is, right? Canteen. Canteen. Canteen used for drinking water. Some of the officers had some of those special drinks inside their canteen. But the thing about the canteen is, take a pond in New Haven, a body of water. What do we have? Small pond.
Long Island Sound.
Nah, that's too big. That's too big. West River, is that not too large, is it?
It's long, but it's not large.
Okay, so let's say we're cut it in half. You take 1,500 soldiers. Have you ever gone down south? What part? North Carolina. What's the weather like in North Carolina? Very hot in summertime. So you're down in all wool. Remember, we got an all wool. We're down in North Carolina. 103, 105. Say we to 100 South Carolina. It's 105 degrees. Take your canteen. We're at Mills Pond, or Mills River. We cut it in half. 1,500 soldiers, or more, 1,000 soldiers per regiment. We leave a battle. Guy is wounded. Goes into the water. Cleans off. Right? Get on down, another regiment comes through. It's hot, I'm in all wool, 105, in the shade, and what is he going to do with his canteen? He's going to dip into that water that the next soldier just cleaned off in. He's going to be out in the field or somewhere getting ready to fight. What's he going to do? He's going to drink. Next thing you know, he's going to get sick with a disease. As he said, disease is one of the #1 killers in the Civil War. Our medical technology just wasn't updated. We couldn't handle all of these diseases that was going on. But through the canteen, just drinking polluted water. And our soldiers were dying. As I always say to many of our school kids a lot of times is, the thing about the Civil War was it was all Americans that died in the Civil War. And that's one of those disheartening factors. It was Americans that died in this war. Because I go to more schools than I do anything else, I pretty much eliminated the musket from my presentation. So the 29th was issued the Springfield musket. Weighed about 9.5 pounds, a big musket. Fires and ranges from 1 to about 500 yards, very powerful weapon. We just received one a couple of years ago in our agency. We have it in our museum. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it, from Company B. But it is a Civil War musket from one of the gentlemen from the 29th. One of our pieces that we really display because it shows one of the few artifacts that we were able to find as well as purchase from the men of the 29th. So that was a great find. When a soldier would go into battle with maybe 40 or more pounds of lead that he would carry, 20 to 40 pounds of lead that he would carry inside his cartridge box. The percussion box was a box that was used with the powder that they would use to ignite the Civil War musket. As the kids play today with those things that you pop, those little powders and you pop, they did that kind of effect, fire the barrel down the musket, doing a lot of damage. In our exhibit, we have some photographs of what the damage of what the Civil War muskets was doing in the war. So hopefully sometime, not the end of this year, next year, our museum is actually going to do this display of photographs of the battles of the Civil War from Connecticut. Very powerful piece, vividly just looking at, you know, the damage and the lives that were lost in this battle. But it really grips you, very moving, very sad. So if you can stand it, please come and take a peek. But it was very powerful, very deadly, and very sad. The knapsack. Inside the knapsack, a soldier was issued, would carry 2 wool blankets, a rubber gaucho or raincoat, a dress parade coat. They used a buddy system, so one soldier would have one half of the tent, the other half of the tent. A couple of tools that they would carry inside their knapsack. But if you can imagine this, down in North Carolina or South Carolina, all wool. We had a gentleman from the 16th Connecticut who took the time to weigh every piece, total to be 52 pounds. So could you imagine, you're in all wool, you're down in the South, it's 105, you got 52 pounds on your back, and then you got guys firing at you. A very brutal war that our soldiers was actually put into. Any other questions? That those lessons will be taught, so no one will have to not, so everyone will have that knowledge. So that's our job, is to try to expose and give people knowledge. But now you know, right?
Yeah. So
you're going to tell those people, right?
Actually, I've known for about 6 years.
All right. So my fellow reenactors, they study the wars, but I took more of the personal side of the story to tell about the man prior to WEBB, because those guys didn't start out to try to be heroes. They're just average guys. They were just average men who wanted to fight, who wanted to be free, and that part was there. But they talked about the strategy of this General Britt Butler's desire to do the crater. And the strategist says that that was one of the worst plans that could have ever happened at that particular time, because there was no way that this was going to really work. But he decided to go forward with it, and so many men got killed, got trapped, you know, in the explosion. And then after the attack, a lot of guys got slaughtered. But it was one of the worst plans that the strategists of the Civil War say that could have ever happened. Yes, materials now that they're starting to look at women who fought in the Civil War. There's a lot of women who dressed as men or enlisted as men, and it's coming to the head now to who some of these women were. I'm not an expert in that field because the information is still being talked about and the answers are still being revealed, so I can't give you concrete evidence of it. But there are many women who were dressed as men, who did enlist as men in the Civil War. The number count, I do not know, but I could just imagine, you know, being one of the physicians, and you know, someone got hurt, and now here you go, and you say, "Whoa, she's a woman," you know. But that is one of our newest pieces of information that's coming. Yes, sir, in the back.
Your research.
He's recalling it and how his heart was feeling, praying that, you know, he wouldn't get killed, you know. So those signs definitely had to be there. As far as that aspect of it in our agency, I haven't uncovered that part yet, but that gives me more part of research to be able to unfold. When you do a session like this, you never know what the questions are. But that allows me to continue to be a good researcher by finding out information. So thank you for that question. Thank blacks, white, women, men. We shed our blood for our land. This is our country. This is our land. This is where we are. This is who we are. But thank you for inviting me. I truly appreciate it. If you haven't gone to the State Library, come and visit us. We're out there. We're right across the street from the Capitol, East 31, Capitol Avenue, over North Saturday, in the back.
Cool, huh?
I will find out.
I don't know. Okay.
Say, excuse me, we would like to start with